On today's episode, we talk about one of the best baits to throw this time of year, a deep diving jerkbait, including when to throw it, where to throw it, and our favorite specific brands and models. We also have some exciting news about new merch on the website right now, and we pop open the mailbag to answer your questions about winter kayak boots, the best dry bags for wading, and what gear you should splurge on. All that and more on this episode of Tackle Talk.
Hello, everybody. I'm Bill Dance, and you're listening to Tackle Talk.
This is the Tackle Talk Podcast, brought to you by American Legacy Fishing and Outdoors. World-class fishing gear, unmatched personal service. Now, here's your host, Andrew Hayes.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Tackle Talk Podcast. As always, we are brought to you by American Legacy Fishing and Outdoors. American Legacy Fishing is my favorite place to check for any sort of fishing gear that I could need before I look anywhere else on the internet for a couple different reasons. One, they have a price match guarantee. They will not be beat by any of their competitors. If you see a better price on a reputable website, let them know. They will match it. They have the best customer service of any fishing website I've ever ordered from. Again, hands down, great folks running a great Midwestern tackle shop right there in Southern Indiana, family owned. They care about you. They also have great shipping. They have a great loyalty program, whether you do the free one and you earn points on every purchase, or you join American Legacy Elite, where you get free shipping with no minimums. You get 10% back on every single order. You get exclusive sales and access to like private Facebook groups and just access to things that regular folks don't get access to, but the savings alone on shipping and 10% back is worth it. They also have a great selection of gently used fishing gear from your favorite brands: Abu Garcia, Dobbins, Fenwick, Berkley, G. Loomis, Shimano. All of those are available over on the website too, a selection that no other website has. All of that from, again, some great folks right here in the Midwest that actually care about you as a customer. And even better, you can use code TACKLETALK5 at checkout. That's going to save you 5% off your entire order, including sale items. That code is now stackable on other sales that they're already doing. Added at checkout, Tackle Talk 5, to save even more money on their already great prices and sales. Again, that's code Tackle Talk 5 over at www.americanlegacyfishing.com. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, first thing we have today is a major kind of semi-surprise announcement here. We have new Tackle Talk merchandise out on the website today. So if you are hearing this, if you're listening to this episode right now, the new Tackle Talk merch is live on our website. It's first come, first serve. We have limited inventory, but this merchandise is already made. It's sitting beside me in my studio, ready to be shipped out to you directly from me. There's no drop shipping. There's no sight unseen gear here. I have designed, produced, ordered, received, and checked everything myself before it goes out to you. So what do we have? Well, first, we have one of the most requested things that you guys have asked for since the beginning. We finally have coffee mugs. So not just any boring coffee mugs with like the Tackle Talk logo on it. We have a brand new design that I made myself featuring a minimalistic largemouth and smallmouth with the Tackle Talk Bass Fishing Podcast right below them. I think it's really cool. It's a design that we've never used before. It applies to both largemouth and smallmouth anglers. A great way to start your day with a cup of good fishing vibes and a Tackle Talk mug. So those are officially available now on the website for purchase. First come, first serve. Second, by popular demand from you all, we have a classic logo Tackle Talk shirt in army green. So you guys know I'm like a Navy guy most of the time, but overwhelmingly the top requested shirt color that we've had over the past probably year or two has been like a desert army green. So we finally have those shirts, a really nice blended shirt. They're lightweight and breathable, but still durable enough and great for wearing in almost any weather. They're the same shirt that we had the Give 'em the Beans shirts in before, but this time we have the classic Tackle Talk logo with just a bit of like fading and roughness to it to give it just a little bit of something. So really cool shirts available over on the website in sizes medium through 2XL for a limited time there. Then we have some smaller items that I've wanted to do for a while. We have some smallmouth keychains. They're really nicely done. They're all metal. They're a small pendant with, like, it doesn't say anything about Tackle Talk or anything on it. It's just that minimalistic smallmouth design that I made about a year ago, the same smallmouth that's on the mug. So not too big because I don't want to take up a bunch of room on your keys. I personally hate giant keychains. They're bulky and annoying, so I didn't want that. I wanted something cool and different for you smallie guys and girls out there. And then last, we have Give 'em the Beans wristbands. So we have rubber wristbands, kind of like the Live Strong style from back in the day, but they are like a light army green, and they say Give 'em the Beans on them. But just something cool for you folks that want like a reminder out there on the water before you set the hook. So we've got all of that over on the website. You can purchase the shirt or the mugs individually, or we've got a discount bundle that gets you a shirt, a mug, 3 Give 'em the Beans wristbands, a metal smallmouth keychain, a 3-pack of decals, and a signed 4x6 card. And as a quick reminder, if you guys want anything signed, just write it in the notes of the order before you hit checkout, and I will 100% do that. So all of that, mugs, shirts, keychains, wristbands, tumblers, decals, all of that is available over on the website, tackletalkpodcast.com. Click store. I really appreciate you guys. This obviously helps support the show. We don't really try and cram too much down your throat or try and sell you too much to make money on or anything like that. This is just something that kind of helps keep the show going. That's not through a sponsor, that's not through, a partner of the show. And it's just us, one, trying to give you guys some cool stuff to rep Tackle Talk. I know you guys ask for it a lot, and I am admittedly not the best at, getting this stuff in stock and making sure that we have stuff on the website all the time. This is kind of my attempt at doing that. So we have some really cool stuff that I've been working on for a while, but again, also just kind of helps support the show. So I appreciate you all. Okay, next here we have some really quick updates from the pro fishing side of things. We have 2 separate results that we have not yet covered here on the show, one from Major League Fishing, one from Bassmaster. So we're going to start with Major League Fishing and the Stage 2 of the Bass Pro Tour down on the Harris Chain in Florida that wrapped up February 13th through 16th, and what ended up being a pretty exciting finish to the second event of the year for Major League Fishing. So your top 10 in reverse order from the Major League Fishing Bass Pro Tour Stage 2 were 10th place Keith Poche, 9th was Andy Morgan, 8th James Elam, 7th was Jacob Wall, 6th place Jacob Wheeler, 5th place Fletcher Shryock, 4th was Terry Scroggins, 3rd place Matt Becker, 2nd Mark Davis, and 1st place $150,000 Bobby Lane.
With our Stage 2 2025 winner, Bobby Lane.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, end of the day.
Yes! Woo! That's what it's all about. Family's here to see me. It's one thing you dream of is winning a huge tournament in your home state. And I have been deprived of that for a long time. I finished second here last time we were here. I've had a lot of close calls, and I knew if that wind shifted just a tad and I could get back up here that I had a chance. And oh, did it shift. And oh, did they bite. And oh, did that flipping stick get to work.
Okay, so a couple notes here really fast. The obvious one, congrats to Bobby Lane, a past Red Crest winner in 2022. He had, I think, 7 career wins, but this was actually his first regular Bass Pro Tour stage win, so a huge congrats to Bobby Lane. Second, I just have to say that it was a real treat to watch Hall of Famer Mark Davis duke it out for the lead and end up in a very respectable second place, as Mark is a 3-time Bassmaster Angler of the Year, a past Bassmaster Classic champion, and he put on a show in a way that we don't really get to see a whole lot anymore. So Mark found this magical clump of reeds on a weed edge and caught almost all of his fish off one single magic clump of reeds. So here are some of his remarks straight from Mark, and then we'll talk about it.
That'll work. Craziness this morning.
5 pounds, 15 ounces.
Woo! Thank you, Lord Jesus. I know this seems weird maybe to some folks. I'm just sitting here anchored down fishing in 2 feet of water. And I know these fish are here. I just keep casting around until you get one of them to bite. A lot of times you would You just come fishing down through here, you catch one, you just keep going. Well, on this lake, I learned if you catch one, not always, if you especially catch a good fish, you need to slow down, put it in grandma gear, and fish that area out really, really good. At one time yesterday, I caught 7 off that one little patch of reeds right there. I caught 7 in about 10 minutes. Now, what makes that patch of reeds better than the rest of them? I can't tell you that.
I love that. Hearing Mark Davis in a world dominated by forward-facing sonar and running and gunning and chasing schools of fish, talking about finding a fish, slowing it down, and in his own words, putting it in grandma gear, that was awesome to hear. And it is the truth. I'm guilty of it sometimes, of moving on too fast. And it's a nice reminder that there are multiple schools of thought of fishing. You can have success by moving quick and trying to find more active, willing fish, or you can also have success by slowing down and really trying to coax those fish that you're already around into biting. And it's hard to argue with someone who has as much success as Mark Davis does, and it showed in this tournament especially. And third, yes, as does seemingly all tournaments these days, we had some drama. And if you saw on social media, we had some back and forth between Keith Poche and Adrian Avina, where Keith accused Adrian of poaching his spots. And then in return, Adrian brought receipts and actually posted a video showing his waypoints from practice with timestamps, showing that he found those fish during the practice days and not by obviously watching Keith fish there on day 1 or 2 or whatever it was. So who's in the right? Who's in the wrong? I don't know. I don't care. Drama is one of those things that on one hand, it's annoying for people like me that just don't like that type of stuff. But on the other hand, I'm sure it's good for the sport as a whole because you need some element of dramatics to keep people engaged. Sports since the beginning of time has revolved around rivalries and alternative storylines off the court, and fishing is no different. But I would be remiss if we didn't at least mention it, since it was all the internet cared about for about a 24-hour period during the middle of this tournament. But again, congratulations to Bobby Lane, your Stage 2 victor on the Major League Fishing Bass Pro Tour at the Harris Chain. Okay, next up here we have some quick results from a very exciting kickoff to the 2025 Bassmaster Elite Series season as they opened up the year at the St. Johns River in Palatka, Florida. So really quickly here, results first, your top 10 in reverse order. 10th place, Jake Whitaker. 9th place, Patrick Walters. 8th went to John Cox. 7th was Gerald Swindle. 6th place, Brock Mosley. 5th place, Corey Johnston. 4th place, John Garrett. 3rd went to Shane LeHue, 2nd, Jay Shakurit, and 1st place, securing his 2nd blue trophy of his career, Mr. Bill Lowen.
Bill Lowen trying to get his 2nd win in his 200th Bassmaster event. 4 fish here today, 1 short of his limit. He's looking for 10 pounds and an ounce. 10 pounds, 4 ounces! 10 pounds, 4 ounces! And Dollar Bill Lowen is a 2-time Bassmaster Elite Series champion! Bill, the 20th season of the Bassmaster Elite Series. This is your 200th Bassmaster event, and you are officially a 2-time Bassmaster Elite Series champion!
That sounds pretty good. Honestly, I don't even know what to say. When I make the cut on Saturdays, we pick Kid out of the crowd to give him a Bassmaster membership. And my wife said last night when we went to dinner that if I was to win today, we're going to give every kid in the crowd a Bassmaster membership. I don't know how we're going to do that or how we're going to get you all signed up, but find somebody at Bass and start giving them your names. All I wanted to do when I was your all's age is stand on this stage and be like Denny Brower someday, and flipping that jig around today made me feel like him, so...
Okay, so first, before we get to the event itself, if you didn't know before that clip, you probably do now, that Bill is one of the good guys. Like, truly one of the gems of the sport. He's a great example, a great role model. He's a symbol of persistence. And selfishly for us around here, he's a Midwest guy to boot. So he's from Indiana. He would probably call Brookville Lake and the Ohio River his home waters, I would guess. So very close to me here in Dayton, which makes it even cooler. But Bill had a very scary Sunday because he came into Championship Sunday with a pretty sizable lead, and he saw that lead dwindle over the course of the day, going from what looked like it may be like a walk in the park Championship Sunday to a true nail biter that was decided by just a few ounces. So the two big stories here, number one, obviously, is that razor thin margin between your top three anglers. First and third place were only separated by 5 ounces. So you had what we all hope for every single tournament that we rarely get, which is a complete unknown heading into the weigh-in, where we're on the edge of our seat waiting to see that final bag hit the scale because we have no idea how this is going to turn out. You can watch Bass Track, but they shut it off at the end, and the weights were actually so close that the margin of error was small enough that we really didn't know who had this thing won. But second was the diversity of techniques in this tournament. Now, you guys know that Bassmaster, unlike Major League Fishing, didn't really put a lot of restrictions on forward-facing sonar heading into this season, other than some transducer and screen size limits, but they can use it all day, every day, anywhere, anytime. Where Major League Fishing said, no, you can only use it one of the 3 periods each day, and the NPFL banned it outright, Bass is still letting them use it whenever they want. But the way that this event's set up, with females on beds and males up guarding fry, up shallow, you saw a lot of techniques being used throughout these 4 days. We saw Brandon Card chucking a spinnerbait in the wind. You saw Shane LaHue throwing a jerkbait around shallow for those fish. Then you would see like Bill Lowen flipping and swimming a jig. You would see John Garrett out there cranking like a 5XD, a little bit of everything. And that's what made this event so much fun to watch. Not every event this year will be like this, so cherish it when we do get it, but you know that it was a really fun tournament and probably a little bit more of the shallow variety when you see people like John Cox and Gerald Swindle and Bill Lowen up in your top 10 on Championship Sunday. 3 guys that I would probably call a little bit more of the old school variety, which is always fun to watch. So again, a huge congratulations to Bill Lowen as he secures the second blue trophy of his long career. This was long overdue. We love Bill. Congratulations to Bill Lowen, your 2025 Bassmaster Elite Series champion at the St. Johns River. Okay, folks, next here, we're going to spend some time today talking about one specific bait for this exact time of year that's either already hitting or about to hit for a lot of you out there, and it's ice out. And ice out means that the layer of ice on your lake or your pond is melting, open water is finally showing up, and you've got that pesky itch to go out there and do some bass fishing after staring at frozen water all winter long. Well, today, we're going to talk about this exact time of year and one bait, at least that I think you should have tied on almost at all times during this period. So first, what are the bass doing? Well, they're not there yet, but the bass are trending usually toward more activity. So here where I'm at in like December, January, February, those are pretty slow months. So those fish move deep and they just kind of sit there. And I'm guessing they're conserving energy. They don't really chase a whole lot. They just kind of exist through those brutal winter months, hunkered down in some sort of winter hole, and they just kind of chill there. Now, they still eat, obviously, of course they do. They have to eat, but they're not going to go bananas down there. It's the time of year where we kind of affectionately refer to it as bonk on the head season, where for some of these fish, they're so slow and uninterested that you quite literally have to put like a darn plastic right in front of their face and just dead stick it. Others will cooperate a little bit more, but still nowhere near the activity level of like spring, summer, or fall. But as spring starts to peek through the clouds ever so slightly, you start to get some signs of life. One of those being open water, one of those being slightly more active fish, and one of those being that those fish are starting to inch toward shallower water, or at least inch toward places that have access to shallower water. So this is that sort of like winter to spring transitionary period, and I want baits that can get low, they can get deep, and they can slow down. And that's what I lean on when we get to ice out. So today, our bait that we're going to be talking about is a deeper jerkbait. And the important word there is deeper. At ice out, I'm not throwing a ton of regular 110 style, 2 to 5 foot divers. I'm going deeper than that. I'm looking for like a +1 style, sometimes even a +2 style, but usually like a +1. So you're getting down in that 8 to 9 foot range on average. Now that's all relative, obviously, to what water you're fishing, because I'm fishing some deeper winter spots. They're usually, I'd say, like 8 to 12 feet on average. So I'm throwing a jerkbait that on a long cast can probably get within a foot or two of the bottom. Now, I don't need it to hit the bottom. That's an important distinction to make here. This is not a crankbait situation. You're not dredging the bottom with this thing and really wanting it to dig. You just want it to get deeper so that it's closer to those deep fish. And in turn, it's less distance that they have to cover to commit. So pretty simply, I want this bait closer to their face. Now, cadence-wise, early on after ice out, it's pretty much the same cadence that I would use in the dead middle of winter if I could find open water. So it's long casts, it's light line, and it's long pauses. Overcast your target, work it a little quicker and more aggressive to get it down to that depth you want it to, and then twitch, like a 10-second pause, twitch, maybe a 12-second pause, twitch again, 8-second pause, twitch, 6-second, twitch, 10 seconds. Very slow, very methodical. That's that late winter jerkbait fishing to me. Now, with specific jerkbaits, if you have the money, a Vision 110 +1 is great. I'm not going to knock it. I have a few of them. I use them, but there are a lot more budget-friendly alternatives out there. So a Vision 110 +1 is going to run you like $24.99 on a normal day. If you want to knock like $6 to $8 or $10 off that, go with like a Jackal Re-Range 110 MR and make sure it's the MR, because that's going to get you down to that like 6 to 8 foot range versus the regular Re-Range, which is only going to hit about 4 feet. And I have to put this in here because over the past year or so, the Jackal Re-Range has been my favorite all-around jerkbait. Deep, shallow, moving water, still water, dirty, clear, it doesn't matter. I've caught more fish on a Re-Range in the past year than any other jerkbait or brand, Megabass included. So that's going to be my pick no matter the budget. But there are other great choices out there for deep jerkbaits. So like the Lucky Craft Pointer Deep Diver 100DD, I think is what it's called, is a great choice. Those are usually more like $15 to $16. So we're heading down the price escalator just a little bit here. And then next you've got like a Berkley Stunna jerkbait, which is going to be like I think they call them the 112 +1. So that's going to go a little deeper because the Stunna is a sinking model jerkbait. The other ones are more suspending models that we've talked about so far. The Stunna actually sinks if you pause it. So under a normal cadence, I'd say you're probably going to get 6 to 10 feet out of a Stunna, even more if you kill it and you let it fall a little bit farther. But the Stunna comes in 21 colors, my personal favorite being Stone Cold, but they do have some really cool semi-translucent, faded, hollow sort of colors like Phenom, Stealth Minnow is a great one, and those again are going to run you about $14.99 on average, but you can find them on sale quite a bit because they're made by Berkley, so 10 to 20 to 25% off is not out of the question on any given day from any retailer. And I would say you can also kind of wrap in the 6 Sense Provoke in with the Berkley Stunna. I think in my opinion those are fairly similar jerkbaits to me, both $15-ish, both actually sink on the pause, both fairly heavy and kind of, I'm going to call them clunky jerkbaits, even though I don't mean clunky in a bad way. They're just not this ultra refined, super quick pivot, stop on a dime jerkbaits like a Vision 110 or some finessier jerkbaits. I would say they have a little bit more muscle and a little less finesse for like a Stunna or a Provoke. And then finally here, to round out our list, the cheapest jerkbait that I'm going to list on here that's somewhat of a sleeper, I think, and not really talked about too often, but for the price it's not bad, is the Strike King KVD 300 Deep Jerkbait. That's going to run you $11.99 on average. You can find them on sale for $9.99 pretty often, and this is probably the deepest of our jerkbaits on this list in terms of actual listed depth. I think they say this will go down to 11 feet, but I feel like it probably doesn't get that on a normal cast. I feel like I probably get 7 to 10 out of it on, again, just a normal cast and normally working it in cold water. But this is the big boy of the list. I think it's a little heavier, and a little longer than most jerkbaits on this list, coming in at 4.75 inches and 3/5 of an ounce. This is going to be a little bit wider of an action jerkbait to me too. Again, more in the big, aggressive, wide rolling category, I would say. 29 colors it's going to come in, readily available at a lot of different retailers, and just a decent budget pick if you're more of that $10 price range versus the 15 to 20 of a lot of the other ones on this list. But I really think my happy medium in terms of performance and price is still going to be that re-range MR. Again, unfortunately, baits are just more expensive than they used to be. I don't like it. I wish it wasn't the case, but it just is. Even if you want to go super cheap, like a Husky Jerk deep diver, the Husky Jerks now are like $9. And I can remember back in the day when they were probably $5 or $6 at Walmart. So everything is going up. The world sucks. But unfortunately, a nice, well-performing deep diving jerkbait seems to be in that sort of $11 to $18 range nowadays, which is why I try to make better use of things like American Legacy Fishing's Elite program. Because over at American Legacy Fishing, I can get a Jackal Re-Range MR. It's normally listed at $18.99. If I buy that jerkbait, I'm an Elite member, so I get 10% back on that order, and I can stack and use code TackleTalk5 on that order. So that takes that re-range basically from like $18.99 down to, for us as Tackle Talk listeners, like $16.23, which is almost $10 less than a Vision 110. And it's a jerkbait that, if I'm being honest, I actually like better than a Vision 110 plus one a lot of times. So it's a win for me. So I'm saving almost $10, again, by buying at American Legacy Fishing, by being an Elite member, getting 10% cash back, and using code TackleTalk5, taking that re-range MR down to like $16.23. So that's my suggestion for the day, and a little tip on saving money along the way. So Tackle Talk 5 over at AmericanLegacyFishing.com. Make sure you're an Elite member. Do not overpay for this. $16.23 with free shipping is a win to me. Now, as far as deep diving jerkbaits, I don't like, because again, this is the fun part of the show here, we get to talk about both. Hot take, I don't really like the new Rapala Maverick jerkbaits. So even though I haven't used the deep version, I'll admit that, I've only used the regular version. I was not impressed with the regular version of the new Maverick, so I'm going to steer clear personally of the Maverick deep version that they just came out with. I'm also not a huge fan of the Bill Lewis scope stick, and as much as I love regular Rogues, I'm not a huge Smithwick like Perfect 10 guy. We'll grab them and kind of bang them off the bottom at spillways and stuff if we want to, but for like deep, clear water and jerkbaits at ice out, not a jerkbait that I'm going to choose. So at the end of the day, get something that can get down deeper, that you can work slower, and you can target those fish as they start to ease out of that winter funk and they begin the very, very, very too early stages of the pre-spawn cycle and starting to feed up. And it's that tough time of year, but I promise it just means that better days are ahead. And if you can tough it out through this next like month or two, full-blown pre-spawn is right around the corner for us up here in the Midwest, and that's really what we're looking forward to. All right, everybody, we'll get back to the episode here in just a second, but first we are brought to you in part by Dakota Lithium batteries. And you guys know by now, over the past couple years, I've been running Dakota Lithiums on my kayak, for my motor, for my electronics. We run them on my buddy's boat for his trolling motor, and there is a reason why so many people, myself included, choose Dakota Lithium. They're twice the power of traditional batteries at half the weight. They charge up to 5 times faster. They last up to 4 times longer. They have 100% US-based customer support, and they come with a whopping 11-year warranty standard. All of that from the best in the business, one of the most widely trusted names in batteries, period, but especially in the marine lithium world, the top choice is Dakota Lithium. And right now you can go over to www.dakotalithium.com, and not only can you browse their huge selection of different batteries if you need 12 volt, 24 volt, 36 volt, all the way up. They've got about everything that you can imagine in the lithium world. They've got chargers, they've got solar packs, they've got power stations, anything you need for off-the-grid camping even. They've got a ton of stuff over there, but you can also use code TackleTalk5. That's going to save you 5% off your entire purchase over at dakotalithium.com, and with lithium batteries, that makes a pretty big difference. So go use code TackleTalk5 over at www.dakotalithium.com, the official lithium battery of Bassmaster. All right, and finally here, let's crack open the mailbag and answer a couple questions before we head out for the day. Our first question today is going to come to us from David, and he says, I live in central Washington state, and it gets cold here as it does in Ohio. My question is about boots or footwear for winter kayak fishing. We will start to have ice out here in a week or two, and I really want to get out on the water. Love the show, and thanks for the consideration. Well, hey, David, good question. I'm going to give you my answer here, but it's important to remember that in winter, I'm not pedaling my kayak. I'm either paddling or motoring, so I don't need a lot of mobility or control of my feet. I just need them to stay warm and maybe to be able to work my foot steering a little bit. But again, that's super easy. I can have really clunky boots and still work my foot steering. If I was pedaling, it would be a different story because I'd want something that was less clunky on my feet so that I could actually pedal effectively. But for me, it's all about warmth right now. So the boots that I wear in the kayak in the winter are actually the same boots that I ice fish with, and they're the warmest boots I've ever bought in my life. I've had them for a long time now. They're the Clam Sub-Zero boots. And these boots, I kid you not, I can put on one pair of wool socks and that's it, and be as warm as can be all day long. No double layering, no foot warmers, nothing. Just a pair of socks and these boots, and I'm good to go. Now, they're expensive, as most good boots are nowadays. They're in like the, I'd say $170-ish range, but they've lasted me 4 good years now, and they still look and feel just like the day I bought them. So they're easy on and off. There's no tying, no buckling, no shoelaces, nothing like that. You just slip them on, and boom, you are warm and dry all day long. So those are the boots that I use. I've used cheaper boots in the past, and I've regretted it. Rocky boots. I've had my hunting boots that I've taken out before, neoprene cheap boots from Walmart. These are by far my favorite. Okay, the next question here is from Jeff, and he says, hey, Andrew, I'm a huge fan of the Buzz Grub. Been using it for a couple years now. I know you like the white 3-inch Mr. Twisters, but I find that the tail has that really thin section that allows it to get caught up on the hook. I've been using the Bass Pro Grubs, and they have a much stouter tail. My real solution is this. When are you going to collaborate with Big Joshy to make an awesome Micro Buzz trailer grub? I love the plastic composition that Big Joshy uses, and I think they would make an amazing grub. Just imagine slush, bullhead, green gizzard, etc. in your grubs. How can we make this happen? We need this. That's funny, man. So that's actually not a terrible idea, right? And probably, I would say not with Big Joshy, because they stay in their own lane and they do their own thing and they're so darn good at it. Big Joshy, they make swim baits. They don't make grubs, and they're very much a kind of stay in our lane type company where they do one thing and they do it better than almost anybody. So that's what I really respect about Big Joshy. It's what I respect about Mark and everybody over there, is that they know what they do. They do it well. Yes, they have a couple other smaller options or alternatives or whatever, but for the most part, they know that they make a good swim bait, and that's really all that they make, and they lean into it. And I love that. I love companies like that. We heard about a lot of those with like the Breaking the Mold series too. People that know what they do it really well, and stay in that lane. But I would be lying if I said that I hadn't talked to Cody at Jigmasters about doing like a matching grub eventually for the Micro Buzz. The only question on that is, like, I'm not 100% sure what direction I would want to take that, because like you said, the different plastics on that thing and the different shapes are really what make it fun to play around with. So I really wouldn't want to like pigeonhole it into one grub, because ironically enough, I've actually taken things like the regular Big Joshy swim baits, the small 275 version, and I've put it on the back of a Micro Buzz before, and that's a really cool kind of heavier waking swim bait action to it. But you're also right. One of the downsides of the Mr. Twisters, which again I love to use on the Micro Buzz, is that they can get caught on that hook every once in a while, especially if you don't rig them just right. But the BPS grubs are a great alternative, like you talked about. Zoom Fat Alberts work really well for a bigger, kind of slightly heavier grub. You can throw tiny spunk shads on it. Half that fun, I think, is messing around with the soft plastics and seeing what you like to throw on it. So it's a Micro Buzz bait, right? So there are very few, I would say, quote unquote, wrong answers for what you can throw on it. But good suggestion. Maybe at some point we will have a custom grub to go on the back of the Micro Buzz. Okay, the next question is from John, and he says, hey, Andrew, great podcast. I'm going to get straight to my question. Do you have an episode where you talk about kayak setups for river fishing? I'm just now investigating the kayak world. I'm leaning toward a new Canoe Unlimited for stability and weight capacity. My questions are front or rear motor and front or rear anchor or no anchor. I like the idea of front mount for anchoring abilities, but rear seems to make more sense for the shallow water I'd be fishing. If you don't have an episode, I think it'd be a great idea. Thanks for what you do, John. Hey, John. So short answer is yes. I know that we've talked in the past a few times about kayak river setups. Now, the tough part is with these type of questions, we're at almost like 300 episodes now. So we do one every week, and I can't remember what weeks we talk about what specifically. So yes, we have talked about it before. No, I don't know what specific episode it is, unfortunately. But for your questions, the Unlimited is a great blank slate to start with from NuCanoe. I'll give you that. And then I'll make it real simple for your other two questions. For river fishing or fishing in current, anchor in the front, motor in the back. Trust me, I don't care what anyone else says on this one. As someone who has spent, thousands of hours in a kayak in current at this point, and from a guy who has buddies who have spent 10 times that amount of time in current, I will unequivocally say motor in the back, anchor in the front. And I would bet my life savings that my buddies, like Ryan, that have spent even more time out there in current than me, would also agree with that. So without getting too lengthy here, anchor in the front so that when you put your anchor down, you are A, fishing upstream how you want to and bringing your bait downstream the natural direction, which is good for fishing. 2, you're below the fish in the current, so that's more stealthy. And 3, you are now anchored so that the current is hitting your kayak straight on head first, which is the safest position to be in. So it's better for your safety. It's better for fishing. It's a win-win. Now, with the motor, you want that in the back because in current, you're going to hit stuff. You're going to hit the bottom. You're going to hit rocks. And if your motor is in the front, you're going to break that motor so fast that it's not even funny in shallow rivers. With a back motor, if you hit something, it's just like a breakaway motor bracket. So you hit that rock, the motor pops up, and then when you pass the rock, it pops right back down, and you're good to go. And you can really only rig up foot steering effectively, I would say, on a rear-mounted motor, which is what you're going to want, again, for like river fishing or for heavy current. Front motors are great for big lakes and big water, but for rivers and creeks and current, back mount all day long. Okay, the next question here is from Brady, and he says, "Hey, Andrew, love the podcast. I just started listening recently after I heard about you on Wendell Fishing's podcast. I am 25 years old, and I live in central Indiana. I've been fishing my entire life, but I have learned so much more to grow my knowledge as an angler since listening to your podcast. My question is, when you're wading creeks and rivers, what backpack or bag do you primarily carry your gear in? Thank you for doing the podcast. Keep up the great work, man. Brady." Okay, so what bag do I take with me? I take a cheap Marchway dry bag on every single wade that I do. Go to Amazon, type in Marchway, Marchway dry bag. They're $18.99. I get the 20-liter version. They're pretty darn durable, and they'll keep your gear bone dry, even if you drop your bag in the water, even if you set your bag in the water. I keep an expensive camera in there. I keep my baits in there, my water, whatever I'm taking with me. And as long as you roll it up and clip it right, bone dry every single time. So that's my wading bag, right? I don't need these, $100 or $150 dry bags. This $18.99 dry bag works great after beating the absolute tar out of them. I am on, I think, 10 years now using these bags, and I'm only on my second bag. Now, the one thing I'm going to say is when they come shipped to you, they come vacuum sealed, so you're going to get it, you're going to open it up, you're going to look at this thing, and you go, man, this thing looks wrinkly and cheap. What the heck is this? I promise you, after you take it out and use it a couple times, it comes to form, the creases and wrinkles fall out, and it is just a beast of a bag for under $20. By far my favorite wading dry bag that I've ever used, especially for the price. All right, and our last question of the episode here is from John, and he says, "Hi, Andrew. I love the podcast. Every so often you talk about cost-saving options for various fishing and fishing-related applications. They're rather helpful, but on the other hand, what are items that you feel are worth splurging on? Thanks, John in Wisconsin." It's a good question to end the day with here. What do I think are worth splurging on? I'm going to say that there is one thing in particular that I think it makes sense to splurge on if you're going to pick something, and it's the most used spinning rod and the most used casting rod that you own. And I'm talking rod here. I'm not talking combo. I'm not talking reel. I'm specifically talking about the rod on that combo. I'm a firm believer that the rod is more important than the reel. And you can send me mean messages or you can fight me on this one. I'm going to stick to my guns and say that in most situations, the rod is more important than the reel. So if you're going to splurge on one thing, splurge on the rod. because the rod is where you get your sensitivity from. The rod is where your power comes from. The rod is where your accuracy of casting comes from. The reel, a lot of times, is just a mechanism for letting out and picking up line. And sometimes that matters a lot. Go to like deep cranking. Yes, the reel matters a lot. Very, very light lures on a bait caster. Yes, the reel that you choose matters a lot. That's why BFS or shallow spool reels or MG reels really exist. But for most of the time, I think the rod takes precedent over the reel. So pick your two most used setups, which in most cases I would say are going to be a medium heavy casting rod and a medium spinning rod, and splurge on those. That's my recommendation. I would rather have an expensive rod and a cheaper reel than a more expensive reel and a cheaper rod. So that's my recommendation, something that we can all take away from this no matter what type of fishing you do. Rods, reels, line, lures, everything, all of those are important. You're going to buy them. If you're going to splurge on one thing, I think it's the rod. Okay, everybody, that is the episode today. Thank you guys so much for listening. As we mentioned at the top of the show, we are now live on TackleTalkPodcast.com with our brand new merchandise. Go to TackleTalkPodcast.com, click store. There you can shop the mugs. You can shop the t-shirts we just got, keychains, wristbands, all kinds of stuff over there. Go check it out. Again, appreciate it. It helps support the show. I will get those mailed out right away as soon as the orders start coming in. Again, TackleTalkPodcast.com. There you can also submit your mailbag questions for your chance to be heard on an upcoming episode. Other than that, find us on Instagram and Facebook at Tackle Talk Podcast. And we'll see you right back here next Tuesday for another brand new episode of Tackle Talk.
Please subscribe to the Tackle Talk Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts.